don't want to be defined by Meghan Markle, even though she was personally responsible for me losing a job I loved. The Telegraph said it was an exercise in narcissism, saying Meghan invites people to her pretend house and they tell her how amazing she is. This happens for 8 episodes. And then there's this clip where she harangues one of her so-called friends for getting her name wrong. It's sort of rehashed old revelations with a new twist. As it turns out, we've apparently been wrong all along. Britain is a nasty, racist hellhole where only magnificent Meghan stood up to all this, and the world's biggest victim.
The California fantasy didn't crack overnight. It collapsed fast. Behind the gates of a quiet Montecito estate, Prince Harry is reportedly rushing through a reality he never expected to face. This isn't a peaceful return home or a symbolic visit. This looks more like a sudden retreat, with bags packed and plans changing by the hour, as the dream chapter he once defended starts slipping out of control. And the timing? Impossible to ignore. Just as Harry's future in California looks shakier than ever, Piers Morgan dropped images that sent shockwaves across both sides of the Atlantic. These weren't casual throwbacks or harmless social photos. The newly resurfaced yacht images place Meghan Markle in elite circles that later became deeply controversial, circles tied to the same social world built by Jeffrey Epstein and managed by Ghislaine Maxwell. That same ecosystem famously pushed Prince Andrew out of public life, and now critics say those connections are resurfacing in uncomfortable ways. Suddenly, the institution Harry once condemned is starting to look like the only safe harbor left. Morgan later revealed that questioning these links triggered more than 57,000 complaints to ITV. Online backlash exploded, and behind the scenes, tensions reportedly escalated fast. Morgan claims direct pressure was applied to silence him, not through formal channels, but personally, a move that only fueled more attention rather than shutting the story down. What's keeping him standing? According to Morgan, it's the paper trail. The photos trace Meghan's repeated presence at exclusive global locations, including Soho House openings like Istanbul in 2015. Insiders describe her role as social filler, a behind-the-scenes position designed to energize elite rooms before high-level figures arrive. And here's where questions multiplied. At the time, Meghan was a supporting cast member on Suits, a successful but modest cable series. The luxury travel, yachts, and constant international movement didn't align with the income people expected.
Well, good evening, London. Welcome to Piers Morgan Uncensored. Next week's coronation of King Charles will be a global spectacle. Tens of millions will be watching as Charles is crowned in a ceremony steeped in 1,000 years of regal history. But judging by the headlines this week, the monarchy's problems lie not in the past, but the future. A shocking new poll says 78% of Britain's young people don't care about the monarchy. Almost 40% of them would even prefer an elected head of state. And actually, who can blame them for having a dim view of the royal family or the monarchy, given that 2 of our most famous young royals have waged a 3-year war on the institution? They've weaponized a culture of validation for victimhood.
And that disconnect is what critics say still hasn't been fully explained. Insiders at the time estimated Meghan Markle was earning well, comfortable, stable, and respectable. But here's where things stopped lining up. A solid 6-figure cable salary doesn't usually stretch to non-stop international flights, luxury yachts in the Mediterranean, 5-star hotels across Europe, and constant access to ultra-exclusive gatherings. The numbers just didn't sync, and people quietly noticed. So the questions started forming, not out loud, but internally. How does a working actress from a moderately successful series move so freely through spaces typically reserved for billionaires, financiers, and legacy power players? Who was opening those doors, and why did the access seem so consistent over several years? According to Piers Morgan, no one rushed to conclusions. Instead, observers did something subtler. They remembered details, they noted patterns, they archived moments without demanding instant explanations. Memory doesn't need drama, it waits for context. And when those old yacht images resurfaced years later, now tied to a royal title and global fame, they suddenly carried new weight. Then there's the Ghislaine Maxwell factor. Maxwell is currently serving a long federal sentence, her former influence completely gone. Legal experts often point out that when someone loses power, protection, and future leverage, cooperation can become their only remaining option. Investigators are especially interested in overlapping social hubs like Soho House, spaces that quietly connected entertainment, global finance, and old-world status. These weren't random hangouts. They were tightly curated environments designed to feel effortless, energetic, and discreet when high-level guests arrived. And according to multiple accounts, Meghan was regularly present in those rooms, not front and center, but perfectly positioned, helping create the exact atmosphere that kept powerful circles comfortable, relaxed, and returning. This is where the conversation shifted from uncomfortable speculation into something far more serious. During the civil case brought by Virginia Giuffre, the same case that permanently removed Prince Andrew from public royal duties, an unexpected detail surfaced behind the scenes. Meghan Markle was briefly discussed as a possible witness, not a defendant, and that distinction matters. Witnesses aren't accused of wrongdoing, they're simply individuals who may have been present, seen something, or crossed paths with people during periods later examined by investigators.
Maybe it's time the royal family sued Harry for invading their privacy. Because the damage that these two are doing is becoming very clear. Protesters chanting "Not my king" tried to disrupt a visit by the King and Queen to Liverpool today.
Not my king! 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 Not my king!
But, and it's a really good but this, there's some hope. Look at what these school children did, who were there and had other ideas.
Court-related discussions reportedly centered on three factors. First, Meghan lived in the United States, making legal jurisdiction straightforward. Second, she was described as socially connected to Prince Andrew during a time window investigators were closely reviewing. And third, she had moved within the broader social environment linked to Jeffrey Epstein during years that later became legally significant. In the end, the case settled before testimony was needed. But observers noted the significance wasn't the outcome. It was the fact that experienced investigators even considered her relevant enough to question under oath. That detail was quickly buried beneath wedding coverage, royal pageantry, and feel-good headlines. Fast forward to now, and those overlooked moments are resurfacing. With Ghislaine Maxwell speaking from prison and Piers Morgan releasing archived images, the pressure is stacking up fast. At the same time, life in Montecito has reportedly shifted. Invitations dried up, once friendly spaces feel colder, and local insiders describe a quiet social freeze-out. Add financial strain to the mix, including a stalled partnership with Netflix, and suddenly multiple problems are colliding at once. What once looked like a dream escape now feels like a chapter closing, fast, loud, and without an easy exit. Industry insiders now say the relationship between Netflix and the Sussexes is effectively finished. According to multiple entertainment sources, expectations were high, the investment was massive, and the results simply didn't land. Viewer engagement stalled, subscriber impact fell short, and executives reportedly lost patience fast. Behind the scenes, the fallout didn't stop there. The internal collapse of the Archewell Foundation raised even more eyebrows. Over a short stretch, 11 staff members exited the organization, a level of turnover insiders describe as alarming. That includes James Holt, who relocated his family from the UK to help build the vision, only to quietly step away once it became clear the operation was struggling to stay afloat.
The Telegraph said it was an exercise in narcissism, saying Meghan invites people to her pretend house and they tell her how amazing she is. This happens for 8 episodes. And then there's this clip where she harangues one of her so-called friends for getting her name wrong.
I don't think anyone in the world knows that Meghan Markle has eaten Jack in the Box
It's
and
so
loves
funny, too, that you keep saying Meghan Markle. You know I'm Sussex now. You have kids, and you go, no, I share my name with my children.
Yes.
And that feels so, I didn't know how meaningful it would be to me, but it just means so much to go, this is our family name.
Now, Batty, I know you feel strongly about this. I just have to say, I come from Sussex in England. It's a county on the south coast. It has several million people live in it. I can tell you with some certainty, if you went round and chose 100,000 people from villages and towns in Sussex, have you ever seen Meghan Markle here in the county? You would not find a single person.
In non-profit and PR circles, rapid departures like that are rarely random. They usually point to intense pressure, unclear leadership, or financial instability, and sources say all three may have been in play. Meanwhile, the numbers in Montecito aren't getting easier. The $14 million home comes with six-figure property taxes, massive security costs, and an ongoing lifestyle that demands steady income. With Spotify already gone and new deals slowing, the financial strain has become harder to ignore. There's also growing talk of relocation. Texas and parts of Europe have reportedly been explored, largely for tax and privacy reasons. But critics argue geography won't quiet the noise. With Piers Morgan's archived images circulating and renewed public scrutiny building, the spotlight isn't fading. That renewed attention has also revived older debates, including past questions around Meghan's public narratives. Comparisons are resurfacing, especially when measured against the transparency shown by Catherine during her pregnancies. Where tradition once offered clarity, critics now say shifting stories created confusion instead of celebration. And as each issue stacks on top of the next, the pressure surrounding this chapter continues to intensify, loudly and all at once. As public attention intensified, one detail kept resurfacing, not as an accusation, but as a pattern many viewers struggled to ignore. During Meghan's pregnancy appearances, visual inconsistencies became a frequent topic of online discussion. In some outings, her baby bump appeared prominent and carefully cradled, with slow, deliberate movement and protective posture that many expectant mothers instantly recognized. Yet, within days, sometimes even closer, other photos showed a noticeably different presentation. The bump appeared smaller, positioned differently, and her movement shifted dramatically. In one appearance, she moved cautiously, step by step, hands firmly in place. In another, from the same time window, she was seen climbing stairs quickly, bending easily, and moving without visible limitation, all while wearing high heels. Observers weren't comparing month-to-month changes. They were reacting to rapid shifts that felt difficult to reconcile. That contrast alone sparked questions, especially among women who had experienced pregnancy themselves. At the same time, reports surfaced claiming internal scheduling documents were circulating among palace staff. These logs, allegedly used for security and planning, supposedly listed medical appointments on days when Meghan was publicly photographed attending events elsewhere in London. The issue wasn't tight timing, it was full-day overlaps that didn't appear to align. No official explanation was ever released, leaving supporters and critics alike debating whether the paperwork was inaccurate, outdated, or misunderstood. Without clarification, uncertainty filled the gap. Then came another moment that drew attention. Meghan had previously shared plans for a private home birth at Frogmore Cottage, a choice many found completely reasonable. But when May 6, 2019 arrived, the birth instead took place at the Portland Hospital, a location never previously mentioned. No public explanation was given for the change, and palace communications remained silent. That silence led many to re-examine earlier statements, not because of one detail alone, but because unanswered questions tend to stack. For Prince Harry, the concern is deeply personal. He witnessed firsthand how Prince Andrew lost everything, not through rumors, but through sworn testimony, verified records, and evidence that permanently reshaped public perception. And that history explains why scrutiny, once it reaches a certain point, becomes impossible to outrun, no matter how carefully the story was first told. This is how serious controversies actually reach an endpoint, not through loud headlines or polished statements, but through records. Depositions, sworn testimony, and official documentation create trails that don't fade, no matter how carefully crafted the public messaging is. That's exactly why Prince Andrew became a cautionary lesson inside royal circles.
I don't want to be defined by Meghan Markle, even though she was personally responsible for me losing a job I loved. You know, she was the one who wrote to the boss of ITV on the Monday night that led to me leaving the next day. Talking about we're both women and we're both mothers. You got to get rid of him. Do people think that's right? Is it right that a person like Meghan Markle from a Californian mansion should lever a British television broadcaster out of a job he's enjoying, that viewers are enjoying him doing in that way? I don't think so. Is it right that my right to free speech was so impinged that I had to leave a job if I didn't apologize for disbelieving someone who said false things? I don't think so. I thought the whole thing was ridiculous, as did Ofcom, the government regulator, months later, who ruled in my favor. So I thought the whole thing, frankly, was preposterous.
His situation proved that silence and legal strategy can delay consequences for years, sometimes decades, until one moment changes everything. Once testimony entered the record, the protective shield collapsed permanently. That history explains why comparisons to Prince Harry feel so unsettling to royal observers. Both men were linked, at different levels, to the same controversial social environments. Both moved within elite circles where influence blurred accountability and oversight was minimal. Andrew's turning point came when Virginia Giuffre named him under oath, creating a permanent legal record. In that same case, Meghan Markle was reportedly considered as a potential witness, not accused, but viewed as someone investigators believed might offer relevant context. That detail matters. It was the same legal framework, the same investigative scope, and the same team with access to evidence the public has never seen. Harry understands something critical here. Institutions matter. The royal system has centuries of experience containing issues quietly before they ever reach courtrooms. History shows how that works. Past associations tied to other royals were acknowledged briefly, addressed, and then absorbed by the institution, allowing public roles to continue without permanent damage. But there's a limit. Those protective mechanisms only work before formal questioning begins. Once testimony is scheduled and records are created, nothing, not titles, not lawyers, not protocol, can erase what's been documented. And that's the question hanging over everything now. Not loud, not dramatic, but impossible to ignore. What was known, and when was it known? Because once scrutiny reaches that level, there's no way to rewind the story, only to face what comes next. Either scenario leaves Prince Harry in an impossible position. If he understood the full scope of Meghan's past and chose to downplay it, that raises serious ethical and reputational questions. If he didn't, if he trusted blindly or was misinformed, then he stepped straight into a situation now threatening everything he tried to build in California, including his remaining family ties. No matter how you look at it, the fairy tale chapter is finished. And suddenly, the very institution he once criticized, the one he described as harmful and unforgiving, has become his only possible shield. That realization explains the sudden retreat, the quiet exit from Montecito, and the urgent move back toward the system he once rejected.
Go, Regis. Iman.
Yeah.
Look at the front pages there, which is when their engagement was announced.
Yeah.
Where's the racism?
Do you remember that was before she actually said that the institution was racist? And that's my point. How institutionalized racism works is
Right.
the minute
But
you
do-
dare
but
say
you
that
accept-
the institution is
sorry, but
racist,
just-
everyone
Iman,
piles
stop
on.
shouting.
That's what happens.
But you accept there's no racism in those media pages.
Because that was before she said that the institution
No,
was racist.
actually, what
after
happened-
that moment,
actually,
that's when everyone decided to pile on.
Actually,
and
what happened
as
is
a woman.
people began to pile on when she started having $500,000 baby showers in New York and flying back on the Clooney private plane.
Which
They started
several-
having a pile
several
on.
points.
Started having a
Several
pile on
points.
when they used Elton John's private plane like a taxi rank whilst preaching about carbon footprint. They had another pile on when they had other huge extravagant events they went to, and then when they're preaching about poverty on their Twitter account. Time and again, they were caught being rankly hypocritical. That was why the media coverage began to turn. Then there was all the stuff with her father. Many people felt that she was unnecessarily cruel to her father. People have since criticized his own behavior. I accept that. But certainly to start with, they ditched him.
What makes this moment impossible to ignore is how many issues have converged at once. Piers Morgan's resurfaced yacht images, renewed scrutiny around elite social circles tied to Ghislaine Maxwell. Old questions that were never fully addressed, now returning with sharper focus. Add to that the unexplained inconsistencies people continue to debate, the chaotic rollout of birth announcements, and the complete collapse of internal operations at the Archewell Foundation, where staff departures suggest an environment insiders quietly walked away from. But through all of it, one detail stands out the most: the silence. Meghan Markle hasn't issued clarifications, legal responses, or even indirect pushback. No public denials, no friends stepping forward, no visible effort to challenge claims that continue spreading. For someone previously known to respond quickly to unflattering coverage, That absence is striking. In public discourse, silence doesn't read as strategy, it reads as avoidance. And Harry's response has been just as telling. Instead of confronting claims head-on, he's physically moved back toward institutional protection. To many observers, the pattern feels clear. When influential figures stop talking and start retreating, it suggests pressure, not peace. When old images, legal history, financial strain, and social isolation collide at once, the story doesn't slowly fade. It collapses, loudly, all at the same time. At this point, observers say there are only two ways to interpret what's unfolding, and neither is comfortable. Either Prince Harry understood more about Meghan's past than he ever admitted and chose not to address it publicly, or he entered the marriage without full awareness and is now confronting consequences he never anticipated. There's no easy third explanation that softens the impact. What complicates matters further is how royal history tends to work. The institution has always prioritized protecting the bloodline, and Harry, as the son of King Charles III, still occupies a unique position. Historically, when pressure mounts, insiders note that the system often shields those born into it, even if others are quietly left exposed. And that's why recent moves feel so significant. As Piers Morgan continues releasing archived material and scrutiny intensifies, the moment doesn't feel distant or hypothetical anymore. To many watching, it feels immediate, unfolding in real time. Legal experts often emphasize one hard truth. Once testimony enters the record, it doesn't stay contained. Statements made under oath become permanent, searchable, and usable in future proceedings. Geography doesn't stop that. Moving states or crossing borders doesn't erase documentation that already exists. With past investigations, photographic records, and overlapping social circles now being re-examined, including those tied to Ghislaine Maxwell, the pressure appears to be converging from multiple directions at once. And the image that lingers for many is striking. The prince who once vowed to build a life beyond royal systems is now moving back toward the very institution he spent years criticizing, not in confidence, but with urgency. To critics and supporters alike, that reversal speaks louder than any statement ever could. At this point, one thing feels undeniable. The California chapter is closing fast. The dream that promised freedom and reinvention has fractured under pressure, and Prince Harry now appears to be leaning back toward the very system he once rejected, hoping it can soften what comes next. But the real question still hangs in the air. As scrutiny deepens and legal processes continue, whose names eventually enter the record? Can the royal institution protect both Harry and Meghan Markle, or does history suggest someone always absorbs the impact to preserve the crown? And when Ghislaine Maxwell finishes speaking, how many unanswered questions finally get clarity? Now it's over to you. Do you think this relationship survives what's building? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Hit like if you found this breakdown insightful, share it with someone who's following this story, and subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. And before you go, check out the next video on your screen right now for even more celebrity drama and deep dives. I'll see you on the next one.